The first time my mother-in-law tried to take my salary, she did it while holding my toothbrush. I walked into the bathroom at 6 in the morning, half awake, and there she was, Corrine Halden, standing in my robe, holding my toothbrush like it was evidence in a crime scene. She didn't even flinch when I froze in the doorway. She just looked at me through the mirror and said, completely calm, "Marin, we need to talk about your income." That was the moment something in my stomach twisted. Not fear exactly, more like a warning. Like my body recognized something before my brain caught up. I should probably tell you who I am before this gets any stranger. My name is Marin Ellery, I'm 32, and I work as a municipal budget analyst here in Tacoma, Washington. If you're new here, please like and subscribe because this story gets so tangled, you'll want to hear every part. And trust me, the ending is worth staying for. But back to the bathroom. My toothbrush in her hand. I didn't say anything at first because I was trying to understand the situation. Why was she in my robe? Why was she in my bathroom? Why was she awake before me? And why did she look so comfortable? She finally turned around. "You make more than Luke, don't you?" My throat tightened. "Why are you asking me that?" "Because," she said, placing my toothbrush on the counter like she was returning something fragile, "it's time you start contributing properly. 50% of your salary should go to the household. It's only fair." The word fair hit me wrong. It was too smooth, too practiced, like she'd rehearsed this speech. I stepped back into the hallway because something about being in a small room with her made my skin prickle. "Corrine, it's 6 in the morning. Money doesn't sleep," she said, brushing past me like she lived there. And that was the first micro detail that stuck with me. She didn't ask permission to walk into my space. She didn't hesitate. She didn't even look at me. She just moved through my home, like she owned it. I followed her into the kitchen where Luke was sitting at the table, scrolling through his phone like this was a normal Thursday morning. He didn't look surprised to see her. He didn't even look surprised that she'd been in our bedroom hallway. That was the second detail. He knew she was here. He knew she was in our space. And he didn't warn me. "Morning," he said without looking up. I stared at him. "Your mom was in our bathroom." He shrugged. "She needed to talk to you." Corrine poured herself coffee from my mug, the one with the chipped handle I always used, and said, "Marin, you're the higher earner. It's only logical that you contribute more. I've already drafted a plan." She slid a folded piece of paper across the table. I didn't touch it. I didn't want to, because something about the way she said, "drafted a plan," made my chest tighten, like this wasn't a suggestion, like this wasn't even a conversation, like she'd already decided what my life should look like. I finally sat down, but I didn't open the paper. "Why 50%? "Because," she said, taking a slow sip of coffee, "that's what I used to give my husband. It kept our household stable." I blinked. "I'm not your husband," she smiled. A small, tight smile that didn't reach her eyes. "No, but you're part of this family now, and families support each other." That was the third detail. She kept saying family like it was a contract I'd signed without reading. Luke finally put his phone down. "Babe, it's not a big deal. She's just trying to help us get organized." Organized. That word felt wrong too. I finally opened the paper. It wasn't a plan. It was a budget. My budget. My salary broken down line by line. My expenses. My savings. My retirement contributions. My student loan payments. Things I had never shared with her. My hands went cold. "How did you get this?" Corrine didn't blink. "Luke showed me." My head snapped toward him. "You what?" He looked uncomfortable for the first time. "She asked. She said she wanted to help." I stared at him because I couldn't understand how he didn't see the problem. How he didn't feel the violation. How he didn't feel the shift in power happening right in front of us. Corrine tapped the paper. "You have more than enough. You're just not allocating it correctly." I felt something inside me harden. Not anger. Not yet. More like clarity. Like a lens snapping into focus. "I'm not giving you 50% of my salary," I said quietly. She didn't react. Not even a twitch. "You will. once you understand why it's necessary. And that was the fourth detail. She spoke like the decision had already been made. I folded the paper and slid it back to her. No. She finally looked at me directly. Marin, don't be ungrateful. The word hit me like a slap. Ungrateful. For what? For her walking into my home uninvited? For going through my financial information? For standing in my bathroom holding my toothbrush like she owned me? I stood up. I'm going to get ready for work. I walked away before she could say anything else, but as I reached the bedroom, my phone buzzed. A bank alert? A transfer request. From Luke. For exactly half my paycheck. My breath caught. That was the fifth detail. The timing. He sent it while I was still in the kitchen. Before I even said no. Before I even opened the paper. Like he already knew how this morning was supposed to go. I didn't accept it. I didn't decline it either. I just stared at it until the screen dimmed. When I finally looked up, I noticed something else. Something small. Something I wouldn't have seen if I hadn't been standing in the doorway. My nightstand drawer was slightly open. I never leave it open. And inside that drawer was my folder of personal documents. Birth certificate, tax forms, old pay stubs. The corner of the folder was sticking out, like someone had opened it recently, like someone had gone through it. My stomach dropped. That was the sixth detail. I closed the drawer slowly, quietly, like I was afraid someone was listening, and then I heard footsteps behind me. Kareen's voice floated down the hallway. Marin, don't forget to bring home your pay stub today. I'll need it for the new system. The new system. My hands curled into fists. I didn't answer. I couldn't, because something about that sentence, something about the confidence in her voice, told me this wasn't about helping. This was about control, and I wasn't even close to understanding how deep it went. Not yet, but I would. And when I did, everything changed. I didn't say anything to Luke on the drive to work. Not because I was angry. Anger would have been easier. It was something else. Something quieter. Something that made me feel like I was watching my own life from outside the window. He kept glancing at me like he expected me to apologize for making the morning awkward. He even turned the radio on, then off, then on again, like he couldn't decide what version of normal he was supposed to perform. When he finally spoke, it was soft. Too soft. You know, she's just trying to help. I didn't look at him. Help who? He hesitated. That was the first detail of the day. Hesitation? Luke never hesitated. He always had an answer ready, even when it wasn't the right one. Us, he said eventually. She wants us to be stable. I watched the traffic lights blur past the windshield. We are stable. Yeah, but you know. Long term. That phrase stuck to me like a burr. It didn't match the situation. It didn't match the urgency Corkreen had shown. It didn't match the way she'd been in my bathroom at dawn holding my toothbrush, like she was inspecting my life. I finally turned to him. Did you tell her to look at my documents? His jaw tightened. She was curious. Curious about my birth certificate? He didn't answer. That was the second detail. Silence where there should have been denial. When he dropped me off at the municipal building, he leaned over like he wanted to kiss me, but I was already opening the door. I didn't mean to pull away. It just happened. My body moved before my brain did. I walked into work with that same strange feeling in my chest, like something was shifting under the surface, something I couldn't name yet. Jonas Reed, my coworker, noticed immediately. He always noticed things. You look like you slept in a blender, he said, handing me a coffee he'd clearly bought for himself, but was now offering because he was worried. I took it. Rough morning. How rough? I hesitated. I didn't want to sound dramatic. I didn't want to sound paranoid. But the words came out anyway. My mother-in-law wants 50% of my salary. Jonas blinked. Like as a loan? No. Permanently. He stared at me like he was waiting for the punchline. That's not normal. I know. And Luke's okay with this? I didn't answer. That was the third detail. The way Jonas's expression shifted from confusion to concern in less than a second. I sat at my desk and tried to focus on the budget reports, but my mind kept drifting back to the nightstand drawer, the folder sticking out, the bank alert, the transfer request, the toothbrush. Every detail felt connected, but I didn't know how yet. Around noon, my phone buzzed. A text from Corrine. Bring home your pay stub. Don't forget, no punctuation, no greeting, no question mark, just an instruction. I stared at it for a long time. Jonas walked by and glanced at my screen. Who's that? No one, I said too quickly. He raised an eyebrow. You sure? I locked my phone. Yeah, but I wasn't sure. Not even close. Around 3, I got another alert. A login attempt on my bank account failed. I froze. I hadn't tried to log in. I checked the location, Tacoma. I checked the time, 3 minutes ago. My pulse started pounding in my ears. I stood up so fast my chair rolled back. Jonas looked up from his desk. What happened? I need to go home. Now? Yes. I grabbed my bag and walked out without explaining. Because I didn't have the words yet. I didn't have the full picture. I just had a feeling. A sharp, cold feeling that something was happening behind my back. I drove home faster than I should have. When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something immediately. Corrine's car. She wasn't supposed to be there. She wasn't supposed to be anywhere near my house without telling me. I walked inside quietly, like I was afraid of being heard in my own home. Voices came from the living room, Corrine's and Luke's. I stopped just before the hallway and listened. She'll agree eventually, Corrine was saying. She just needs to understand her role. Her role? My stomach twisted. Luke sounded tired. I don't know if this is the right way. It's the only way, she said. You know what's at stake. What's at stake? My breath caught. I leaned closer. Careful not to make the floor creak. She makes more than you, Corrine continued. That money should be supporting the family, not sitting in her personal account. It's not sitting, Luke said quietly. She's saving. For what? Corrine snapped. She doesn't have children. She doesn't have medical issues. She doesn't have debt. She doesn't need that much. I felt something inside me crack. Not break, crack, like a fracture forming, Luke sighed. I just don't want her to feel cornered. She won't, Corrine said, as long as you stay firm. I stepped back before they could hear me breathing. I walked into the kitchen and made just enough noise with the cabinet door that they'd know I was home. Luke appeared first. Hey, you're early. I forced a smile. Yeah? Slow day. Corrine followed him, smiling like she hadn't just dissected my life in the next room. Did you bring your pay stub? I looked at her, really looked at her. Her hair was too neat, her blouse too crisp, her expression too calm. She wasn't asking, she was expecting. I shook my head. No, I forgot. Her smile tightened. Try not to forget tomorrow. I didn't answer, because something in her tone told me forgetting wasn't an option. After she left, Luke sat on the couch and rubbed his face. She's just trying to help. I sat across from him. Help who? He didn't answer. That was the fourth detail. Silence again. I leaned forward. Luke, did you give her access to my bank account? His shoulders tensed. She needed to see the numbers. That's not an answer. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And for the first time, I saw something I hadn't seen before. Fear. Not of me. Of her. Marin, he said quietly, please don't make this harder. Harder. Like I was the problem. Like I was the obstacle. Like I was the one disrupting the plan. I stood up. I'm going to take a shower. I walked to the bedroom, closed the door, and locked it. Then I opened my nightstand drawer. The folder was still there, but something was missing. My most recent tax return. Gone. My hands started shaking. Not from fear, from clarity. Because now I understood something I hadn't seen before. This wasn't about money. This was about access, control, leverage. And I wasn't even close to knowing how deep it went. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to Luke breathe beside me, trying to understand how the person I married had become someone I didn't recognize. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the empty space in my folder where my tax return used to be. I kept replaying the conversation I overheard. Corrine saying I needed to understand my role. Luke saying he didn't want me to feel cornered, both of them talking about my salary like it was a community resource they were entitled to. But the thing that kept looping in my mind wasn't the money. It was the fear in Luke's voice. I'd never heard him sound like that before. By morning, I felt hollow. Not numb. Hollow, like someone had scooped out the center of me and left the shell behind. I got up quietly, showered, dressed, and walked into the kitchen. Luke was already there, staring into his coffee like it might give him answers. He looked up when he heard me. "Morning," I nodded. "Morning." He studied me for a second. "You okay?" I didn't answer right away because I didn't know which version of the truth he wanted. The quiet one? The polite one? The one that made his life easier? I finally said, "I'm thinking." He swallowed. "About what?" "Everything." He didn't push. That was the first detail. He didn't push. Luke always pushed when he felt guilty. He always tried to smooth things over, fix the mood, make the tension disappear. But today he just sat there, shoulders tight, eyes tired. I grabbed my bag and headed for the door. "Marin," he said softly, "please don't make this worse." I froze. Worse. Like I was the one escalating things, like I was the one disrupting the balance, like I was the one who'd crossed a line. I didn't turn around. "I'm going to work." I walked out before he could say anything else. The air outside felt colder than usual. Sharper. Like the world had shifted a few degrees overnight. When I got to the office, Jonas took one look at me and said, "Okay, what happened now?" I sat down at my desk. "Someone tried to log into my bank account yesterday." His eyebrows shot up. "You're kidding." "I'm not." "Did you call the bank?" "Not yet." "Marin?" "I know," I said, rubbing my forehead. "I know." He sat on the edge of my desk. "You want me to stay late with you today? Help you sort things out?" I shook my head. "I need to figure out what's going on first." He hesitated. "You think it's them?" I didn't answer, because I didn't want to say it out loud. Because saying it out loud made it real. Around noon, I got another text, this time from Luke. "Can we talk tonight, please?" I stared at the message for a long time. Not because I didn't know how to respond, but because I didn't know which version of him I'd be talking to. The man I married? Or the man who let his mother go through my documents? I didn't reply. Not yet. I needed more information. I needed clarity. I needed something that made sense. Around 3, I finally called the bank. The representative confirmed what I already suspected. Someone had tried to access my account using my old password. The one I used before I married Luke. The one I hadn't written down anywhere. My stomach tightened. "Can you see the device?" "It was a laptop," she said. "Registered in Tacoma." I closed my eyes. That was the second detail. A laptop. Not a phone. Not a tablet. A laptop. Corrine didn't use laptops, but Luke did. I thanked the representative, hung up, and sat there staring at my computer screen without seeing anything. Jonas walked by and paused. "You look like you're about to pass out." "I'm fine." "You're not." I didn't argue, because he was right. When I left work, I didn't go home. I drove to the waterfront and sat in my car, watching the water move in slow, steady waves. I needed space. I needed distance. I needed to think without someone listening through a door or reading over my shoulder. I pulled out my phone and opened my notes app. I started listing the details. The toothbrush, the robe, the budget paper, the bank alert, the missing tax return, the overheard conversation, the login attempt, the laptop. When I looked at the list all together, something clicked. Not a full picture. Not yet. But a shape, a direction, a pattern. I drove home slowly, rehearsing what I was going to say. Not a confrontation, not yet, but questions. Small ones. Quiet ones. The kind that reveal more than they ask. When I walked inside, the house was too quiet. Not peaceful quiet, tense quiet, like the air was waiting for something. Luke was sitting on the couch, hands clasped, staring at the floor. He looked up when he heard me. "Thank you for coming home." I set my bag down. "We live here." He winced. That was the third detail. Guilt before accusation. I sat across from him. "What did you want to talk about?" He took a deep breath. "I know things have been weird, and I know my mom can be intense. But she's not trying to hurt you. She went through my documents. She was trying to understand the situation. She tried to access my bank account. His head snapped up. What? I watched his face carefully. The surprise looked real. Too real to be faked. His eyebrows pulled together, his mouth parted slightly, his shoulders tensed. Someone tried to log in yesterday, I said. From a laptop. He shook his head. I didn't do that. I believed him. Not because I wanted to, because his reaction didn't match guilt. It matched fear. Luke, I said quietly. What's going on? He ran a hand through his hair. I can't tell you. My stomach dropped. Why not? Because it's not just about me. Then, who is it about? He didn't answer. That was the fourth detail. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't avoidance. It was protection. I leaned forward. Did your mom take my tax return? He closed his eyes. That was enough. I stood up. Luke, I need the truth. He looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something raw in his expression. Something vulnerable. Something that made my chest tighten. Marin, he said softly, there are things you don't know about my family. Then, tell me. I can't. Why? He swallowed hard. Because if I do, you'll leave. I stared at him. Because that sentence, that one sentence, told me everything I needed to know. There was a secret, a big one, and I was already tangled in it. I sat back down slowly. Luke, what does your mother want with my salary? He didn't look at me. He didn't speak. He didn't move. And that was the fifth detail. Stillness. The kind of stillness that comes before a truth psalm. One doesn't want to say. I whispered. Luke, what are you afraid of? His voice cracked when he finally answered. Losing everything. I didn't understand what that meant. Not yet. But I would. And when I did, the entire story shifted. I didn't ask Luke anything else that night. Not because I didn't want answers. I did. But because I finally understood something important. He wasn't lying to me. He was hiding something from me. And those are not the same thing. Lying is active. Hiding is protective. And the way his voice cracked when he said he was afraid of losing everything, that wasn't manipulation. That was fear. Real fear. The kind that sits in someone's bones. So I didn't push. Not yet. I needed to see the full shape of the truth before I touched it. The next morning, I left for work early. Earlier than usual. The sun wasn't even up yet. The house was quiet, but not peaceful. It felt like a held breath. I checked the nightstand drawer again before leaving. The folder was still there. The tax return was still missing. And something else was off. A tiny thing, but enough to make my stomach tighten. My passport was slightly crooked. I always keep it perfectly straight. I didn't fix it. I wanted to see if it moved again. When I got to the office, Jonas was already there, leaning against my desk like he'd been waiting. You didn't answer my text last night, he said. I know. You okay? I sat down slowly. No, he nodded like he'd expected that. You want to talk? I hesitated. Not because I didn't trust him, I did, but because I didn't know how much of this was safe to say out loud. I think, I said carefully, that something is happening in Luke's family. Something he doesn't want me involved in. Jonas frowned. Like what? I don't know yet, but it's bad? I nodded. He leaned closer. Marin, do you feel safe? The question hit me harder than I expected, because yes, I felt safe physically, but emotionally, financially, legally, I wasn't sure anymore. I'm fine, I said quietly. I just need to understand what's going on. He didn't look convinced, but he didn't push. Around noon, I got a text from an unknown number. Bring the pay stub today. No more delays. No name, no punctuation, no context, but I knew exactly who it was. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Jonas walked by again. You look like you're about to throw your phone into the ocean. Maybe I should. He raised an eyebrow. That bad? Worse. I didn't tell him what the text said. I didn't want to drag him into this. After work, I didn't go home right away. I drove to a quiet parking lot near the library and sat there with the engine off, watching people walk by, living normal lives with normal problems. I pulled out my notebook, the one I'd started the day before, and added the new detail. Unknown number, demanding pay stub, no signature. When I looked at the list, something clicked again. The tone of the messages, the timing, the pressure. This wasn't about budgeting. This wasn't about fairness. This wasn't even about family. This was about urgency. Someone needed money fast. Someone who wasn't me. Someone who wasn't Luke. Someone who had access to my documents. Someone who had no boundaries. Someone who believed my income was already theirs. I drove home slowly, rehearsing the questions I needed to ask. Not confrontational ones, strategic ones, the kind that reveal cracks. When I walked inside, Corinne was sitting at the kitchen table, waiting, like she lived there. She smiled when she saw me. "Did you bring it?" I set my bag down. "Bring what?" Her smile tightened. "Don't play games, Marin." I sat across from her. "I'm not playing." She leaned forward. "Your pay stub." I studied her face. Her eyes were too bright, her posture too stiff, her fingers tapping the table too quickly. She was nervous. That was the first detail. Corinne Halden was never nervous. "Why do you need it?" I asked. "For the system." "What system?" She hesitated. That was the second detail. She didn't have an answer ready. "The family system," she said finally. I tilted my head. "What does that mean?" She didn't blink. "It means you contribute what's fair." "Fair to who?" Her jaw tightened. "Don't start." I leaned back. "I'm asking a question." She stood up abruptly. "You're being difficult." "I'm being careful." She glared at me. "You don't understand how much pressure your husband is under." My pulse jumped. Pressure. That word again. "What kind of pressure?" I asked. She froze. Completely. Like I'd touched a nerve she didn't expect me to find. That was the third detail. She recovered quickly, but not quickly enough. "Marin, this isn't your concern. It involves my salary, because you're part of this family." "Then tell me what's going on." She didn't answer. She didn't even look at me. She grabbed her purse and walked toward the door. "I'll be back tomorrow. Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I didn't stop her. I didn't say anything. I just watched her leave. When the door closed, I finally exhaled, because now I knew something for sure. Corinne wasn't in control. She was desperate. And desperate people make mistakes. I walked into the bedroom and checked the nightstand drawer again. The passport was moved. Again, slightly more crooked than before. Someone had opened the drawer while I was gone. Someone had looked inside. Someone was searching for something. I sat on the edge of the bed, heart pounding, and whispered to myself, "What are they trying to find?" I didn't know. Not yet. But I had a theory. A dangerous one. I pulled out my laptop and opened my tax records online. I scrolled through the documents until I found the one that was missing from my folder. My most recent return. The one that showed my income. The one that showed my savings. The one that showed my retirement account. The one that showed exactly how much money I had access to. And then I saw it. A small note I'd forgotten I added months ago. A reminder to myself. Transfer rollover funds to new account by December. My stomach dropped. Because if someone saw that, if someone knew I had a separate account, if someone knew I had money they didn't know about, that would explain everything. The pressure, the urgency, the invasion, the missing documents, the login attempt, the demand for 50%, the insistence on the pay stub, the fear in Luke's voice. I closed the laptop slowly, because now I understood something I hadn't seen before. This wasn't about my salary. This was about my savings. And someone was trying to get to it. I heard the front door open. Luke walked in, looking exhausted. "Hey!" I didn't move. "We need to talk." He froze. That was the fourth detail. Fear again. I stood up. "Luke, what is your mother trying to take from me?" He didn't answer. He didn't breathe. He didn't blink. And that silence, that heavy, suffocating silence, told me everything. He knew. He knew exactly what she wanted. And he knew exactly why. I stepped closer. "Luke, what did your family do?" His voice was barely a whisper. "Marin, please don't ask me that. I'm asking." He closed his eyes, and when he opened them, I saw something I'd never seen before. Resignation. "Marin," he said quietly, My family is in debt. I stared at him, because that wasn't the truth. That was the beginning of it. And I knew the real truth was much worse. For a long moment, I just stood there staring at Luke, waiting for him to say something else. Something that made sense, something that connected the dots without ripping my entire life apart. But he didn't. He just sat there, shoulders slumped, eyes tired, looking like a man who'd been carrying a weight so heavy it had reshaped him. I finally spoke. What kind of debt? He rubbed his face with both hands. Marin, it's not just debt, it's obligations. The word hit me wrong. Obligations, not bills. Not loans. Obligations, the kind of word people use when they don't want to say the real thing. I sat down slowly. Explain. He shook his head. I can't. You have to. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. And I saw something I hadn't seen before. Not fear. Not guilt. Not shame, resignation. My mom, he said quietly, made some bad decisions after my dad died. What kind of decisions? Financial ones. Legal ones. She trusted the wrong people. She signed things she shouldn't have. She borrowed money she couldn't pay back. I felt my pulse in my throat. How much? He hesitated. That was the first detail. Hesitation before a number. Luke, I said softly. How much? He swallowed hard. Over 200,000. My breath caught. Not because of the number, though it was huge, but because of the way he said it, like it wasn't the whole truth, like it was the part he felt safe saying out loud. I leaned forward. And she expects me to cover that? No, he said quickly. Not all of it. Just some. 50% of my salary is not. Some. He winced. She thinks it's fair. Fair to who? He didn't answer. That was the second detail. Silence again, but this time it wasn't fear or guilt. It was loyalty. To her, not to me. I stood up. Luke, did you know she took my tax return? He closed his eyes. That was enough. Did you know she tried to access my bank account? His eyes snapped open. I told you, I didn't do that. I didn't ask if you did it. I asked if you knew. He froze. That was the third detail. Stillness again. I stepped closer. Luke, did your mother tell you she was going to try to get into my accounts? He didn't speak. He didn't move. He didn't breathe. And that silence, that heavy, suffocating silence, was my answer. I felt something inside me shift. Not break. Not crack. Shift. Like a door opening to a room I didn't know existed. Luke, I whispered. Why didn't you warn me? His voice was barely audible. Because she said if I told you, she'd lose everything. And what about me? He looked at me with eyes that were suddenly wet. I didn't want to lose you two. I stepped back. Because that sentence, that one sentence, told me everything. He wasn't protecting her. He wasn't protecting me. He was trying to protect both of us, and failing miserably. I sat down again. But this time, it wasn't out of exhaustion. It was strategy. Luke, I said quietly, I need you to tell me the truth. All of it. Right now. He shook his head. I can't. You have to. Marin? Luke. He looked at me. And something in his expression finally cracked. She didn't just borrow money, he said. She used my name on some of the paperwork. My stomach dropped. Without your permission? He nodded. And now they're coming after you? He nodded again. I felt cold all over. And she thinks my salary will fix it. She thinks it will buy time. Time for what? He didn't answer. That was the fourth detail. Silence again. But this time, it wasn't fear or loyalty. It was dread. I stood up slowly. Luke, I need you to listen to me very carefully. He looked up, eyes wide. I am not giving your mother 50% of my salary. He opened his mouth, but I held up a hand. I'm not doing it today. I'm not doing it tomorrow. I'm not doing it ever. He swallowed. Marin. No, I said softly. I'm not finished. He closed his mouth. Your mother has crossed every boundary I have. She's gone through my documents. She's tried to access my accounts. She's taken things from my home. She's pressured you. She's pressured me. She's treated my income like it belongs to her. I took a breath, and she thinks she can get away with it because I've been quiet. He didn't speak. I stepped closer. But I'm not quiet anymore. He looked terrified. I didn't blame him because he knew that once I reached this point, there was no going back. Marin, he whispered, what are you going to do? I didn't answer. Not yet, because I needed him to feel the shift. I walked to the kitchen, opened the drawer where we kept envelopes, and pulled one out. Luke watched me like he was afraid of what I was about to do. I grabbed a pen. I grabbed a stack of paper, and I started writing. Line by line, meal by meal. Every dinner I'd cooked for Corrine. Every lunch I'd packed when she dropped by. Every grocery run I'd covered because she forgot her wallet. Every time she'd eaten at my table without contributing a cent. I itemized everything. I added dates. I added descriptions. I added totals. And when I finished, I placed the stack of papers into the envelope and sealed it. Luke stared at it. What is that? I looked at him calmly. A bill? A bill for what? Every meal I ever cooked her. His face went pale. Marin, you can't. I can. She'll lose it. Good. She'll come here. I know. She'll start a war. I met his eyes. Then she should have picked someone else to fight. I walked to the door, grabbed my keys, and headed outside. Luke followed me to the porch. Marin, please. I turned to him. Luke, I love you, but I will not let your mother dismantle my life. He didn't speak. I walked to the mailbox, opened it, and placed the envelope inside. When the metal door clicked shut, something inside me settled. Not relief, not victory, clarity. I turned back toward the house. Luke was standing there, looking at me like he didn't know who I was anymore. Maybe he didn't. Maybe I didn't either. But I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't powerless anymore, and whatever came next, whatever storm Corrine brought to my door, I was ready. Because she wanted 50% of my salary, and instead, I gave her a bill. And if you've listened all the way to the end, thank you, really. This one took a lot out of me to tell. If you've ever dealt with someone who tried to control your life, or your money, or your peace, I hope this made you feel a little less alone. If you relate to any part of this, drop a comment. I'd love to hear your story too. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. It helps more than you know.